in for closed session. Shall we go ahead and get started with, do we have any public comment for closed session?
No public comments. Would you like me to take the roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez, present.
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa.
I'm here.
Councilmember Charette. Councilmember Charette.
Oh, I forgot to mention, Councilmember Charette called me and said that he was not going to attend closed session. He's having some computer difficulties, and he thinks that they'll be fixed by the time open session comes around.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nickel.
Here.
Councilmember Richard.
Here.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Here.
And Mayor Valdivia is absent. That's the roll call.
I think I got bounced off there for a second again, or it seems like we're all having issues with computers today. So there is no comments, public comments for closed session, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Shall we go ahead and go into closed session?
If you could just give me a moment while I make sure that the streaming has.
Call to order the joint regular meeting of the Marin City Council and Marin City Council acting as successor agency for the redevelopment agency of the city of San Bernardino. We welcome you here tonight for those participating and viewing this via Zoom. At this time, I will ask, do we have Council Member Richard, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If we could please stand and salute our flag. Council Member. Okay, why don't we have Council Member Figueroa? Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you lead us, please?
All right, ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman Figueroa. Appreciate that. At this time, I'll ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Here.
Councilmember Charette.
Here.
Councilmember Nickel.
Here.
Councilmember Richard. Councilmember Richard does not appear that she's in the meeting right now. Councilmember Mulvihill.
Here.
And Mayor Valdivia.
Here. Very good. Thank you, Ms. City Clerk. At this time, let's get a closed session report from our city attorney.
Hi, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. We had closed session this evening at 5:30. We addressed 2 matters of anticipated litigation, and the city council unanimously authorized filing of receiverships for properties located at 2247 North Lugo and 1996 Del Rosa. Mayor and Councilmember Charette were absent, and that's all the reportable action that I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. City Attorney. This time, we're doing a few things, procedural changes. You received the update via email. This time, let's go ahead and hear a report from our city manager, Rob Field. Rob, we can't hear you, Rob. Mic check. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
He disappeared into the Banner Tower.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Try from here.
Now we can hear you.
Now we can hear you.
Okay. I'm borrowing Rebecca Kramer's. Sorry about that. And thank you. So good evening, Mayor, City Council. Want to take this opportunity to just make a few quick remarks. I really appreciate your making a little bit of time. I thought it would be worthwhile at the start of these meetings to hear a little bit about what's going on in the city. We hear plenty of the tough news, but it's sometimes a good thing to share some of the good stuff that's going on around town. And one of the things I think that's kind of exciting is we're starting to see a lot of activity around town, construction activity, public works type activity, and also some other stuff around the community that's kind of exciting. So as an example, in the water department, something we don't always hear about, but the water department is making a pretty significant investment in the water reclamation plant. It's a green initiative. It's taking waste gas and turning it into clean energy, and it's about a $30 million project that represents a big investment in our community, and also it's putting people back to work here. Also, with the Parks Department, Kaboom is building accessible playground equipment. There, for example, at Hudson Park, it's a project that's been in the works for a while. It was a victim of COVID. It was COVID interrupted. But they're working on it now, and it's going to result in a significant upgrade. It was partly sponsored by the Los Angeles Kings of the National Hockey League. So nice to hear that we have that kind of an interest in our community. With respect to public works, we're about to get to work. I see this every day on my way into the office on doing the 2nd Street bridge replacement over by the courthouse. It's over Worm Creek rather, and it's about a $4.5 million project, mostly funded through Caltrans, but it's a really important addition. It'll be nice to have that street reopened. It's tough to see one of our major thoroughfares, interrupted in terms of service. Another thing that's kind of neat is that we're seeing a lot of development pressure here. We're seeing new homes built here for the first time in a long time. My company and I talk about this on a fairly regular basis. So, for example, the Rancho Palma project is about 120 single-family residential parcels. They've been issued their grading permit, and you're going to start to see grading activity up there very soon. And finally, a couple more on the service end of things. The Animal Services Department, great news there. They have achieved what is essentially recognized as a no-kill status. They're at a 90% save ratio for both dogs and cats. And I've worked in the animal services industry off and on for a long time, and I can tell you that to reach that level of life preservation for cats is pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. Dogs is more common, but not in the feline world. And also, there's a number of things going on at the library. We're starting to reopen the library system, and they have received about $211,000 in support for a literacy department expansion and providing new services in the literacy world. So all of these things are going on in San Bernardino. This is all the good, some of the good stuff, not all of the good stuff, I should say. There's a lot of other neat stuff going on. Also, I should touch on the Carousel Mall project. We are having a workshop a week from tonight. It's going to be a Zoom workshop. It is time for us to take a closer look and examine some of the options that we have available to us for pursuing the Carousel Mall redevelopment project. I know that there was some talk at one point about having presentations from the people who responded to the RFP. It's important, though, that we consider all the options in advance of that. So we have scheduled that workshop. It will be in a week, right here on the same channel. So we look forward to presenting a range of options to the council and to the public so that we can have better informed and more in-depth discussion than we've had a chance to do collectively before now. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Mayor, unless there are questions from the council or anyone else.
Well, we appreciate it, Rob. Yeah, Councilman Nickel.
I do have a question on that workshop. Now, it was my understanding that we were going to invite those that have proposed on the redevelopment of this project present at that workshop. Is that still the case? Are we anticipating that those firms that have put in significant amount of time and money consistent with the direction provided by this council almost 2 years ago. Are they going to be present? I'm a little concerned that we should be having this discussion in the context of the policy direction that's already been provided by this council.
The intention is to have them present, but not to make the presentation of their proposals at this juncture. Again, it's an opportunity to look at some of the options that remain in front of us today. Conditions continue to evolve, and so we wanted to take this opportunity first to present the options that are in front of us.
Yeah, my concern is to ensure the credibility. This has been a lengthy process, and again, much time, energy, money has been invested in getting us to this point. I want to ensure that we are engaging with those firms that have followed through with the process that was put in place, and that we have an opportunity to engage with them in the context of that workshop discussion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Nickel. Councilmember Barra.
Yes, and to further expand on it, is there a reason we're not having the proposals presented to us at this workshop?
Again, we're treating this as an opportunity to make certain that all of the alternatives that are available to us for pursuing the redevelopment of the mall are presented in a consolidated fashion. I don't know that has happened previously, and this is an opportunity to do that before we have the respondents to the RFP make their full-fledged presentation of their proposals.
Councilman Charette.
Well, my comments really are in parallel to Henry's. I'm quite concerned, frankly. Of course, I agreed to attend that meeting, and I will. But I think changing horses in the middle of the stream is really maybe a concern that I have here. We've been dealing with this project for 13 or 14 years, and I think we've vetted a lot of people. And we can continue to wait till next Monday for a new proposal, or the next Monday for a new proposal, and they'll be never ending. They'll continue to come. There's a lot of options out there, and we've put some people through a lot of rigorous. They've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm frankly a little concerned about this because I thought we were at the point of choosing between the last two. We had over, I think, 11 or 12 people make presentations. We narrowed it down to 3. Of those 3, 2 decided to partner up, and I feel that they're a great partnership. And again, I'm concerned that we're now, as Henry said, our credibility with changing horses in the middle of the stream and saying, well, we've done all this, but now we don't want to look at something else and maybe go in another direction. So obviously I'm willing and will be a part of that meeting, but I say it's time for us to kind of, the old term about the pot. It's time that we make a decision and get a master developer in here. I think with the size of this project, there's going to be a lot of room for a lot of people to come and be a part of this thing, and to maybe even I don't know if the consideration is to kind of stop what we've done and go out to bid again and go out for more proposals. I don't think I really.
Councilman Charette, let me just.
Well, wait a minute. Let me finish. Let me just finish. I want to just make my comments.
Well, Councilman, no.
No, I'm going to make my comments, John. And
Sir, I'm going to recognize. I'm the chair of the meeting, Mr. Charette.
I'm going to make my comments.
Sir,
finish them.
Mr. Charette,
you asked us not to speak over.
Let Fred finish.
Mr. Charette, sir, I'm asking for the chair back. I'm the chairman of this meeting. I'm going to recognize the legal opinion. Ms. Carvalho has her hand up. Mr. Charette,
fine.
Please.
This is just.
We'll get a city attorney opinion. Ms. Carvalho.
This has nothing to do with the city attorney.
Mr. Charette, please
this is
stop.
my opinion.
Mr. Charette, please stop interrupting. We're trying to conduct a meeting.
You interrupted me, sir.
Mr. Charette, please. Ms. City Attorney, go ahead, please.
Mayor and council members, I just want to remind you that at this point, We're talking about a city manager's update as noted on the agenda. So this is the opportunity for the city manager to make comments. I just want to make sure we're within the realm of the Brown Act. As you recall, I recently sent you some communications where we have been given a warning to make sure we're in compliance. Council members, you are more than welcome to comment, and you would do that at your opportunity on the agenda to ask questions and to have feedback. But the city manager's update on the agenda is really intended just to give an update, and you can make notes, and any questions you might have, you can raise when it comes up to your time on the agenda to ask those questions.
The city manager asked us to make comments. or
Okay,
ask
Mr.
questions.
Charette, please go ahead with your direct question or issue because we got a meeting.
I don't
to
have a
go on.
question. I'm giving my comment.
Okay, go ahead, sir. You have
Comment
about
is,
1 minute
I have
remaining.
some
Go ahead.
concerns, but I will be there.
Okay.
There's no time limits.
All right, thank you. Council members, we're just asking you because there's a lot of feedback. If you'd mute your line, please. Thank you. Mr. Mulvihill, Ms. Ibarra, thank you for cooperating with that. Are there any other questions from council members? If not, we will move on to our public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Ms. City Clerk, we will recognize you for our public comment portion.
Did you want to take the public comment prior to the appointment?
Oh, I'm sorry. We do have an appointment. Dave Milanarski. Dave Milanarski is on our agenda for appointment. My apologies, Ms. City Clerk. Is there a motion for approval?
I move approval. He's one of my constituents.
Well, he represents all 65 miles, Jim.
Second.
Very good. Glad that you see that he's part of our community. There's a second by Ted. All right, Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard is absent. And Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Jim, if you mute your mic, please. Thank you. Fred, mute your mic. Thank you. All right, at this time, let's go into our public comment portion. And Ms. City Clerk, go ahead and play the recorded messages.
Mitch, can you please enable the share screen?
It is.
Sorry, on my end, it's showing that it's disabled.
Okay. All right, check it on, check it off. Okay, right now it is showing available. Okay. Okay. Showing available.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andy, and I wanted to leave a public comment for open session. I wanted to comment on the last meeting. I noticed that Ms. Basin and Mr. Juan did not have their cameras on, and I feel like that's a disservice to the community. Already, Ms. Basin and Mr. Juan do not participate at all in the discussion or the meetings, and the fact that they had their camera off made it very difficult. It was almost as if they weren't even there. Additionally, Ms. Basin dropped off the meeting early, and Mr. Mulvihill went to sleep early, and I feel like that's unacceptable. Everyone else has to be there and watching the meeting till 12:30, and it's not fair that they get to leave early. If they are interested in leaving early, then they should not be on the city council anymore. Additionally, it's unacceptable that the city council races through the discussions and open hearings. I wouldn't even call it a hearing, what you guys did. Some of the people just voted to motion and seconded as soon as the thing was read. There was no hearing. I also find it unacceptable that the city heard hundreds of petitions to not open the new plasma center, and they still opened it, and they still gave them the permit, which is unacceptable because so many people voiced their concerns, and they had legitimate ethical concerns and legitimate concerns, and the city just raced through and gave them their permit without even pausing to think about the implications. If you've ever been to the other plasma center on Highland, you can see that it's a disgusting, filthy place with a bunch of homeless people, and we shouldn't extend that to the other part of San Bernardino, which is not as bad as Highland here. And the council members should know that. They should drive around the city every once in a while and see what it's like. So yes, please, cameras on, and be there for the entire of the meeting. Thank you. Bye.
My name is Elena German. I have a property on 464 Norman Road, San Bernardino, California, 92408. I want have an inquiry, please. I don't approve with the project, which is gonna be around my house. I'm already blocked in front and the side. If they gonna block me, I will be in the back. So they might purchase me out so they can build more if they want to, but I do not want to be close in the box. So I'm talking about the Waterman Land Ventures LLC, which they will build around my house on Central and Lena, I believe, and Foisey. So then I will be exactly in the box there. So please hear my request. I think that the ID number is, I tried to send the email and doesn't go, but the ID number will be 2954. Thank you so much for hearing my request. My phone number is 714-396-4522, 714-396-4522. Please denied for now until they will purchase me or something, and the neighbors also. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Hello, this is Peter Moore. I live over in, the Vermont Heights area, 92473 zip code. And I believe this is, I think it's an open session, but it's number 2020-265, the Oxborough project. You guys have a lot of concrete with rebar and stuff dumped up here. And I am definitely not cool with this, especially if they are going to be processing it down the street from my house. A lot of excess noise, a lot of excess traffic that we don't need, especially for building. We have these zoning laws. This is residential. This is not commercial. That is stuff that needs to be in a commercial area. I mean, my neighbors, myself included, my kids, we don't need this. If you have any questions, 909-763-1941. I live off of Cincinnati Street and 92407. 9237. 92407. Yeah, 92407. So once again, my name is Peter Moore. If you need a specific address, 2684 Cincinnati Street. And that is in San Bernardino, 92407. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.
Hi, my name is Michael Taylor. This is about the open council meeting. I live at 6961 North Melvin Drive, San Bernardino, at the top of Palm Avenue. I live 3 doors down from the pile of concrete that was dumped by a developer, and there's nobody currently working on it. I would like to understand where the permits are. I would like to understand how those permits were approved. I'd like to understand how the work is adhering to the state's regulations around pollution. Again, my name is Michael Taylor, 6961 North Melvin Drive, 909-289-0629, 909-289-0629.
Hello, my name is Nate Island. I'd like to make a comment for the open meeting. that is on October 21st, 2020, on a specific agenda item number 3 for temporary use permit guidance 2020-265. I'd like to start by saying that apart from the temporary use permit that has been given to this, what is I've come to know as a concrete recycling site, I don't believe that this site would be able to comply with noise ordinance that the city has in place, and it does not comply with residential zoning laws that were previously put in place for our protection. I also have some concerns about the idea that the site would be used only for temporary storage of already completed materials. While this would be better than the recycled site, recycling center site, the constant traffic of commercial vehicles back and forth from the industrial site would pose a lot of concerns for the community. One, again, noise ordinance laws. 2, safety concerns. Palm Avenue does have a highly respected elementary school on it in the area, and this would be fairly problematic to that school and their learning environment, not to mention their safety, as you would turn their front yard into an industrial highway for commercial vehicles. Furthermore, there are concerns about the San Bernardino Municipal Water Reservoir that is in the immediate area, less than a mile from the site. I would be concerned about environmental issues to the local residents' water supply in that area, and it also borders a national forest line, so other environmental issues would be concerns as well. Allowing this type of a site to be to move forward in our community, I think it's completely ridiculous. I don't see how the city could allow this type of industrial recycling, manufacturing, concrete facility to be across the street from high-end residential properties in the San Bernardino area. And I think that it would be a mistake. This is why we elect officials to protect us from these sorts of things happening, and I would think that you guys would understand that and try to protect us in this situation, and I hope you will. Furthermore, I think that it would affect the quality of life for our community, the safety of our community, the local environment, and the property value of our community.
Speaker has reached his 3-minute time limit. Moving on to the next one.
Public hearing, item 4. My name is Daniel Katina. I'm a member of Labor's Local 73. I'm calling in support of Waterman Land Ventures project. I believe that this project will continue to work of building a stronger economic future for the residents of San Bernardino. This project will allow construction tradesmen like myself to provide for my family and secure work over the next 12 months. Thank you.
Public hearing, item 4. My name is Jorge Garcia Aguilar. My phone number is 909-685-5800, and I'm a member of Labor's Local 783. I'm calling in support of the Waterman Land Ventures project. I have been working in construction for the last 22 years, building a career with the Labor's Union and job at the time, and look forward to this project being approved so I can continue this career. This project will provide support for San Bernardino residents. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. My name is Hector Gomez. This is for public hearing, item 4. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Hector Gomez. I am a member of the Laborers Local Union 783. I'm calling in support of the Waterman Land Ventures project. This project will provide employment for the working class of San Bernardino. During this time, it is important that families maintain medical benefits, but I can only do that if I am working. This project will provide that opportunity to not only put food on the table, but provide health insurance when my family needs it. I urge the City Council to approve this project and put tradesmen like myself to work. Thank you.
Hello, this is Juan Perez speaking. Public hearing item 4. My name is Juan Perez. I am a member of Labor Local 783. I am calling in support of the Waterman Land Ventures project. I am beginning my career in industry and believe that this project will continue the work of building a strong economic future for the residents of San Bernardino. These union construction jobs have helped support my family and me. I am grateful for the project like the Waterman Land Ventures project. I strongly support the Waterman Land Ventures project. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Monica. I'm a resident of Verdamont Heights. I believe this is for open session, specifically regarding the resolution 2020-265. I live in the north end of Verdamont Heights there since 2006. I live about 6 houses down from that abomination of a concrete debris mountain. I'm calling regarding item 3 on your agenda, and I am pretty upset with this whole situation, this Oxbow problem. They have violated at least 4 things on their original permit from July 1st. I just think that alone shows that they can't even be trusted. But, the first thing is noise. The noise, they violated that. The trucks have been hauling and dumping between 6 and 6:30 in the morning for weeks on end until I actually went up there and said something to me, or to them, I should say. And then they all kind of argued with me and said, well, no, the owner of the project said that we could start, this early. And I said, no, you can't. So anyway, there's that. Number 2, they've never covered that debris that's up there. The dust is insane. I've got crap all over my vehicle every day. Number 3, there's no sanitation up there. I don't know what those guys are doing to use the restroom. I can only imagine, but, Number 4, this permit is, from what I can read, there is no way allowed any kind of processing or grinding of that debris. This isn't construction material that's up there. This is just junk concrete with rebar sticking out of it that, has God knows what kind of chemicals in it. Which kind of brings me to some of my other concerns. Was this ever even tested? And if so, where's the results? Because nobody can find it. I don't know about you, Mayor and City Attorney and all you City Council folks there. I don't know if you want to breathe silica dust, but I sure don't. I also had a question, why is there no end date for this temporary permit? Even the permits that I had to jump through hoops, by the way, just to build a 4-foot retaining wall, which included hiring my own engineer. I had to have, it was a 90-day limitation on that permit. So how come these guys get an open-ended time frame to do whatever it is they're going to do? I really feel like you guys are going to do this resolution. You need to enforce it and make sure that the Oxbow people are held accountable to every aspect of that resolution as well. And the bottom line for me is absolutely no grading permit issued to them. They can't continue their project, so they haul all that stuff away. They grind it elsewhere, and they take care of business and do the right thing. And I hope that you guys all will do the right thing too. Thank you. Bye. Hi, my name is Monica. I'm a resident of...
Hello, this is Helen Demetrian. My address is 3694 Myers Road in San Bernardino. I am in Ward 5, and I am calling about 2020-625, which I am assuming refers to the Oxbow project. I would like to add to my previous letters that have been sent in that anyone from the site of the Oxbow straight down to the freeway, and that's if the wind blows in that direction, will be at risk for silicosis. Now, previously, when you do the research, you can find out that an average silicosis lawsuit is $1 million apiece. I hope that the city is proactive and does not wish to have its residents exposed to the silicone that the wind will generate. Also, if you do the crushing at the residential site at the Oxbow project, the crushing can and will damage hearing. The crushing machinery actually it will be at damaging levels for hearing at decibels between 90 and 110. 5 minutes exposure to this crushing would cause the residents in the immediate area hearing damage. Again, I hope the City Council votes to remove the debris from the Oxbow project so that it can avoid possible litigation. Thank you for taking this time to listen to my concerns.
Council, good people. This is Robert Porter, lifelong San Bernardinian, 4th generation living here. I'd like to speak today about staff report on bonding for cannabis businesses. Now, yes, last meeting we talked about integrity standards, and one of the arguments was there shouldn't be integrity standards for just one business or one type of business license. Well, I agree, Mr. Nickel. We should do it to all the businesses, have these integrity standards. So let's consider that and, look into doing it for everybody. And then also, if we are on that path, then maybe we should definitely consider that in the bonding of new cannabis licenses, because $200,000 is just out of control. I mean, who in their right mind would want to pay that much money to start any type of business unless you're super rich? That's like cutting out all the poor people. On that end, the staff recommended, they did a study, and they said around the surrounding areas is $25,000 to $5,000. And staff recommended $25,000, which is still a super huge amount of cash. Why can't it be something lower so we can get some smaller guys in there into the game and actually trying to make some money and revenue for San Bernardino? And you don't have to just be like some rich dude out here in somewhere and having to like bring the money in from out of the area. Instead, we could have local people actually putting money into these local cannabis businesses. So the bonding, I believe, should be at $5,000 at the most, but more likely like $1,000 or less. And those people will still do it in a timely manner if there's a 6 months to do it or a year, and they'll still do the appropriate things to keep their business going because they want to be business owners. And if they don't, then you handle them accordingly. Also, I'd like to you guys to look into the IE Emperors, the semi-pro basketball team that wants to move into the Carousel Mall area. Man, we need to do something with that, and that sounds like a great idea. We'll get people coming to downtown, spending money in that area. We should really take a look into that. It'd be really cool to have our own basketball team, the IE Emperors. Wouldn't that be really cool? So anyways, team, please, we got to get this stuff together. We need to get some revenue into the city, and please treat all businesses and licensing equally. This is Robert Porter, and I love San Bernardino.
Hello, my name is Denise Casas, and I am a 23-year resident of Vermont. I'm calling on agenda item number 3. And I'm concerned about the Oxbow construction. It will put construction material, or at least the temporary use permit allowed that. The concrete has rebar in it, so how can that be crushed? And it's debris once it's been crushed. And it was supposed to be construction material. This is just debris. It's been dumped here in Vermont as a trash site. We get high winds up here when the Santa Ana start, which we've already had an event. The silica dust blows from the debris, and it's contaminating the air, especially dangerous to those with asthma or any breathing difficulties. The temporary use permit states no grading of any type shall occur without proper grading permits. Some grading has already taken place, and the concrete is buried without a grading permit. Is not a breach of contract. It's a residential area up here. How can they propose to crush or grind unfinished materials here? The dust will be worse than what's currently there, not to mention the noise this action will bring to the community. How can this be legal? And then there's the concern of all of this on a slope and near an actual earthquake fault line. Just so many questions it leaves. And if there's suddenly a new owner, is the city left with having to clean up an unbonded pile of rubble? I look forward to watching and listening to how this turns out. Thank you.
This is a public comment for Treasurer Ortiz for open session. Council, tonight, as you move forward in approving the integrity standards for future cannabis applications, I ask that you take this and do a broad stroke approach, because litigation and claims of pay for play in our city are not just within the cannabis industry. We've seen them in the tow truck industry with people trying to develop in our city, and there's a real problem, and it needs to be addressed in every type of industry that is touching our city, because it's hurting us. You know, when the mayor looks at you, Teddy, and says, "What are you talking about, all this pay for play?" You need to stop your passive aggressiveness and look him straight in the eye and say, "Yeah, you corrupt scumbag. Literally, because of the mayor, we are facing litany of litigation by different industries because he put his hand out to other people in pay for play." Just say it. I don't understand why a council would try to sunshine any of this stuff. It doesn't make sense. And you know what, Fred? When you sit and you tell the council that you take offense to wanting to pass integrity standards, you know what I take offense to as a resident of this city? The fact that my tax dollars don't go to services that are needed towards parks and streets and libraries, that they go to pay for litigation and settlement claims. That's what I take offense to. And if having integrity and ethical standards in place will somehow hurt you in your ability to raise money, then what you are doing has no integrity, nor is it ethical. So start doing things that are right for the people of this city. If we don't turn things around, we will fail. You can't gain trust from the people if you don't legitimize yourself as governors who see the best interest and want to do what is best for our community. We have a chief of police right now out running for community hospital board up in Big Bear. When we are failing in public safety, this fool has so much time on his hands that he can go sit on another board in another community, but we can't keep people alive in our streets. We can't keep kids safe. We can't keep businesses from being robbed. The priorities are so wrong. It is beyond belief. We deserve better. People who have not lived in this city know that there is a better way of doing things. That's why they look at us and they laugh. And people who have lived elsewhere and moved here are trying to make changes because this is wrong. And what you guys continue to do is wrong. It is not a joke. What you do has...
Public speaker has met their 3-minute limit.
Hello, this is Elena German with the property number 028016130. I'm calling about the meeting at today for the Poisey project. I sent the email and I wanted to say too on your answering service, please. I'm not okay with that project at all. I don't want to be close here as in the box, you know, because if they cannot build around me, I have a building on another side, building in front of the property, so I'm going to be like in the box here, unless they want to buy me out. So I know they wanted last year to buy us, but because the city asked them too much money, I guess, for the sewer line, that's why they back off. So in this case, if you please side with me and not allow them to do anything until they will buy it, the city will beneficiate, the code enforcement will beneficiate, everybody will beneficiate, and us too. So because it's gonna be a nice area with nice buildings, not just buildings, and some bad area with homeless and etc. So please, my phone number is 714-396-4522, 714-396-4522. I hope you can side with me, and thank you so much for your understanding my situation and my stress. Thank you. God bless you today and every day. Bye.
Hi, my name is John Rohrbach. It's about the open meeting for the Oxbow project. I have concerns. I live in the area about the uncovered stockpile material that's never been covered. There's dust on the north side of the material that's not kept watered down. City codes need to be upgraded to environmental codes, which, being there a watershed just adjacent to that area, is concerning. About crushing the material on site, is that going to cause damage to the houses nearby, let alone the silica dust from the crushing? I think Cal Ocean needs to be aware of this project. Being a licensed contractor, I think I am obligated to do that. Let's see what else. And if this passes, will it open up the door for other projects to dump concrete on and bust it up on site? Perhaps maybe next to the mayor's house we could do something like that. Alrighty, thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Evangelist Miller, and I am calling to speak on the homeless situation. I go out once a week, sometimes twice a week, to assist the homeless, and I would really appreciate it if we can get some type of assistance, some type of finance to help assist them. And I was thinking about maybe something like Kent City. We have plenty of areas that are filled and empty, or buildings that possibly could be used for these. San Bernardino, downtown San Bernardino is infested with homeless people lying on the sidewalks. It's just very sad, and I think that needs to be one of the main subjects that we should be focusing on to help people.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Felipe Delgadillo. I'm a resident of the Inland Empire for 11 years now. And I'm calling for item number 4, in support of item number 4, the project, the Foyce East project. The developer made a commitment to create jobs in our communities. Not just to create jobs, to create good paying jobs with wages and benefits. So I'm asking for your support on this project. Have the community have an opportunity to do work where they live, where they pay taxes at. And like I said, the developer may have a commitment with the community to create jobs, not just any job, good paying jobs with good wages and benefits. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. My name is David Cordero. I'm a representative for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. Currently, we represent about 5,000 members in the community within San Bernardino County. So the reason my call is to have the City Council consider approving the resolution on public hearing number 4, which is the resolution to adopt the mitigated negative declaration monitoring and reporting program on the General Plan Amendment 19-03. This is for the Boise East Project, Ward 3. Again, being that I represent many of the carpenters that reside within the San Bernardino area, which include Ontario, that will be something beneficial to some of those workers to be able to work close to home if the opportunity arises. So again, I encourage you to approve this and move forward with it. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and members of City Council, my name is Ryan Oganesian with RD San Bernardino. My comments this evening are not directly related to an agenda item this evening. However, this is in regards to the ongoing procedures that will establish rules for the 6 additional cannabis retail permits that this council approved. I appreciate very much that staff is dealing with these procedures individually so that they are able to proceed without further delay. For the additional 6 permits, we strongly suggest the city use the rankings previously provided by HDL and look at those applicants who are next in line. These applicants have already been vetted, and we suggest adding certain qualifications such as a bond, a time limit, and perhaps having current occupancy. I believe this will help save the city time and money and will separate those operators who are serious and want to immediately help the city of San Bernardino receive much-needed tax revenues. I know the city is still facing litigation from some of those applicants who originally applied. We did not file a lawsuit, and we strongly believe those that want to partner with the city of San Bernardino should not have a pending lawsuit against the city. We believe using HDL rankings could potentially help settle those previous lawsuits. Speaking on a personal level, we intend to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into the city of San Bernardino. This investment will not only help our facility, but it will benefit all other restaurants and businesses in our specific area near the 10 freeway. In addition to the investment in the property, we plan to continue our support of local charities with a portion of all profits going directly back into the community. Thank you for your time. I look forward to working with you.
Good evening, San Bernardino City Council members. I'm here to leave a public comment for agenda item 4. So my name is Angel Esparza. My phone number is 909-301-2723. I'm a representative from the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. And I'm calling tonight to speak in support of agenda item 4, the Boise East project. The developer has made a solid commitment to ensure that this project will support our local community members and local construction workers with an opportunity of employment to not only build this project, but to also create good paying jobs for the local community after the construction phase. So tonight, I'm in full support of this project. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Eddie Rivera, and I am a long-time resident of the Inland Empire. Today, I'm leaving this message for you guys in support of item 4. I hope you guys can accept the city staff recommendation and approve item 4. Projects like these are hard to come by. They provide working construction men and women like myself a much needed opportunity to work close to home. Working close to home makes a big difference in the quality of life that we can lead. It is night and day compared to commuting into Orange County or LA County, which means commuting easily 2 or 3 hours a day round trip just to go to work and back home. These projects close to home make a big difference in the quality of life. So we hope that you can keep this proposed project moving forward. Please, I hope you can support it and approve staff recommendation. Eventually, we hope to see good quality jobs come forth from this project, meaning a good developer using good contractors who have committed to using good wages and union members. Those are all good things for the community. The idea of being able to work close to home is, like I said, it's very important to us in the construction industry. It's not too often that we get to work close to home. Very important. I hope you guys can approve the project. It should have some financial benefits for the city and the county, and obviously the community at large. Please, I hope you guys can support item 4 and approve staff's recommendation. My public comments here are for the item 4 for the open session. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. You guys have a good evening. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Eddie Rivera, and I am a long-time resident of the Inland Empire. Today, I'm leaving this message for you guys in support of item 4. I hope you guys can accept the city staff recommendation and approve item 4. Projects like these are hard to come by. They provide working construction men and women like myself a much-needed opportunity to work close to home. Working close to home makes a big difference in the quality of life that we can lead. It is night and day compared to commuting into Orange County or LA County, which means commuting easily 2 or 3 hours a day round trip just to go to work and back home. These projects close to home make a big difference in the quality of life. So we hope that you can keep this proposed project moving forward. Please, I hope you can support it and approve staff recommendation. Eventually, we hope to see good quality jobs come forth from this project, meaning a good developer using good contractors who have committed to using good wages and union members. Those are all good things for the community. The idea of being able to work close to home is, like I said, it's very important to us in the construction industry. It's not too often that we get to work close to home. Very important. I hope you guys can approve the project. It should have some financial benefits for the city and the county, and obviously the community at large. Please, I hope you guys can support item 4 and approve staff's recommendation. My public comments here are for the item 4 for the open session. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. You guys have a good evening.
Peggy Hazlett. I am calling on item number 3 for tonight's agenda. My concern as a homeowner whose property abuts the Osbo project, where there is a stockpiling of contaminated cement from the Amazon burn in Redlands. And we have sent and submitted to the city numerous pictures and videos that show the the particulates that are currently blowing up off of this site into our backyards, into our homes, where our children play and our grandchildren play. There is case study after case study after case study that recognizes that the particulates from concrete are detrimental to the health of humans, and especially over long term. And without a proper covering of this or barrier between the residential community and a stockpiling of a contaminated concrete from a burn site, the temporary use permit guidance that the Mayor and Common Council are to be establishing tonight for these types of temporary uses needs to be fully vetted to make sure that no other communities in the city of San Bernardino are impacted by such just awful conditions that we are being exposed to at this point. This area is zoned residential low. It is not zoned for heavy construction yards and the stockpiling of construction debris or demolition debris, more importantly, from another community that the developer has definitely profited from to bring into our community to then try to move forward on a tentative tract map that doesn't have the proper conditions of approval attached to it. So greatly concerned with this. Want to support our council member in the work that he's doing to try to protect our communities and make sure that we have safe, good development and safe, good characters participating in the development in our community. Thank you for your time.
That concludes the recorded public comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. City Clerk. Moving on to item number 2, cannabis resolution, adopting the guidelines related to relocation applications, bonding and permit processing deadlines, resulting in forfeitures. The recommendation by the council.
I have a comment that has been asked for me to read under the public comments section, and I think we've agreed that that can be done. So if you would please indulge me.
Mr. Charette, have you made the accommodation to forward that to the city clerk?
Yes, I have.
Have you done that?
I've been asked by a resident of a business person and a resident of the city as a representative of them to read this publicly on the record.
Okay, well, we typically, we don't read it on the dais.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all.
Okay,
I wish to be heard on this and to read this public comment from one of my constituents and a large business in our community. And this is not fair to be shut down. We have representatives. John, I know how you would have done in the 3rd Ward, you would have fought nail in the 3rd Ward.
I understand your, how about this? Can we read, we want to get into the business portion of our meeting tonight?
No, we're in public comments right now.
Yes.
Part of our meeting. We're in public comments, and this is a public comment that I've been asked to read into the record.
Okay, Mr. Charette, please, what we're trying to do is accommodate public comments. We respect the right for people to speak, but I mean, let's be real. There's an opportunity for you to just simply forward that to the city clerk. Procedurally, you could do that. You said you have done that. So it can be submitted.
But it doesn't get...
Hold on, Mr. Charette. Hold on. I'm trying to speak as well to address allay your fears and concerns that you bring up. So it's not that I'm trying to shut down people. I understand. I appreciate public comments. I respect them. But there's a process and procedure. I'd hope that you would start doing that, begin implementing that so we can conduct and process these public comments. There's an opportunity for you prior to the meeting to submit that to the city clerk to be a part of the record.
The constituent asks that it be read. If it gets submitted, it is not seen in the same manner that it will be if it's read into the record on tape, on TV, as this live stream is flowing. And it goes into a large folder, and this particular person.
Mr. Charette, go ahead. You're recognized. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Let's move this meeting forward. Go ahead.
This comes from Catherine Felice with Stubblefield Construction Company, and it's a very positive message.
Great. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Please don't. It's a very positive message. And it's regarding item number 10 that would not be heard because it's on the consent item. And it's that she writes the following: I am commenting in favor of agenda item number 10, and more specifically in favor of the parking restrictions on the north side of Highland Avenue between a Eucalyptus Drive and Rockford Avenue, and both sides of Eucalyptus Avenue for the first 340 feet north of Highland Avenue. Our properties located on the north side of Highland Avenue, both to the west of Eucalyptus and to the east of Eucalyptus, are being adversely impacted by the customers of the vendors using those street areas. These visitors, in quotes, negatively impact our commercial tenants, including an established restaurant, Two Guys Pizza and Pizza, at this site, as well as impacting our property in general with their trash, grease, trespassing, and public urination and defecation. We respectfully ask that you pass these parking restrictions, and that is relating to item number 10 on the consent agenda from Stubblefield Construction Company.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Charette. Moving on to item number 2, cannabis resolution. Mr. City Manager, please proceed.
Yes, thank you. We're back to the cannabis resolution, adopting guidelines for relocation applications. We're going to have a report on that from Mike Huntley. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rob. I'm Stephanie Sanchez. We'll give the presentation, and when she's complete, we're available for questions. Also, the city attorney is also available to answer any questions as well. So with that, Stephanie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'll make the presentation as brief as possible while still giving you all the information in our report tonight. So I'll start with going back to June of this year. Staff was given direction to address several cannabis topics, including the integrity standards and exchange of licenses that we've recently done in the last meeting. Per Council's direction, tonight is the second of 3 items staff is bringing forward. We'll be addressing relocation applications, performance bonds, and processing deadlines. So tonight we'll start with our relocations. Under Section 510-200 for change in ownership or location, awarded commercial cannabis businesses can apply for a relocation within the city. Current applications, the process is set up into 4 phases. So we have the application submittal, the review, the applicant interviews, and council consideration with set fees for each phase. Relocations, as we're now proposing, would go through 3 steps: the submittal, the staff review, and council consideration and approval. So this means that staff could just take in the application, review it in-house, and bring it to council for approval. Next, we'll move on to performance bonds. Council has asked staff to incorporate performance bonds into the application process to help avoid delays and ensure that applicants are committed to operating a commercial cannabis business within the city. Adding this requirement would fall under Section 510-320, titled Other Operational Requirements, and that allows for the development of other commercial cannabis business operation requirements or regulations as deemed necessary. A performance bond would be designed to be returned to the commercial cannabis business applicant upon issuance of final permits. However, if the commercial cannabis business applicant does not perform and meet certain stipulated deadlines, which we'll go over in a moment, then they forfeit the performance bond. When council brought the topic up for incorporation, council recommended we look at a performance bond in the amount of $200,000. Staff's research revealed that cities require security deposits ranging anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. So based on the research, the amount requested by Mayor and City Council exceeds current industry standards. The proposed guidelines have, the guidelines currently leave the amount of the bond a blank, but we're asking City Council to consider the amount of $25,000. And last but not least, we bring you deadlines and forfeitures. So another requirement that staff would like to establish under Section 510.320 would be permit processing deadlines. Essentially, this would create a performance policy, otherwise known as a use it or lose it deadline for current and future applicants. As proposed in the resolution before you tonight, current applicants will have 3 months from tomorrow, if approved and adopted tonight, to secure a location and submit tenant improvement plans to begin their process. For future applicants, they will have a total of 12 months from the date they are awarded a commercial cannabis business permit by mayor and city council to secure their location, go through the tenant improvement process, and become open and operational. Staff believes it's in the best interest of the city to impose these deadlines, and it will emphasize to applicants that they must pursue the establishment of their business or risk losing their permit. So tonight, staff is looking for 3 things from council. We're looking for the adoption of the relocation guidelines. We're looking for council's determination of the performance bond amount to incorporate into the application guidelines. And lastly, we're looking for the adoption of the deadline and forfeiture guidelines. So that's the end of our presentation. Like Michael Huntley said, staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie. We appreciate it. Just to clarify, all 3 options have staff recommendations. Is that correct?
All 3 of those items are incorporated into the one resolution we've brought forward to you tonight.
All right, and so there's staff recommendations. Is there a motion for approval on the staff recommendations?
Move to approve.
I have a comment.
Is there a second from anybody?
I'll second to get the item moving.
All right, thank you, Councilman Nichols. So it's a approval on a motion by Ted and a second by Henry. Let's open it up for discussions. Councilmember Barr.
Yes, real quick. I know we had asked for this before, but I do want to get an update on where the current applicants are, since they have been awarded as of a year and a half already. I didn't see that in the packet. I'm okay with the deadlines. I'm okay with the bond amounts, but we need to also see where the current ones are. Make sure that they are moving along and they're opening up business.
So in fairness to our staff, why don't we put that in a parking lot, Ms. Ibarra? We can follow that up offline and provide.
I requested this in previous meetings, Mayor.
Okay.
That's why I was bringing it up again.
Okay, I appreciate it. Why don't we thank you for that encouragement that we need to get an update. So Rob, can you please take care of that and update the full city council on where we are on the status of that inquiry from Ms. Ibarra? Where are we at on some of those outliers? I think that's important to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Charette, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Stephanie, could you touch on the bond issue again? It's $25,000 bond. And is it refundable? I mean, they put that up, and give me a little bit of background on that.
Sure.
I'm not sure that's high enough, frankly, based on what we've already experienced. And I'd like to know how we came up with that number.
Sure, of course. So the performance bond is designed to encourage the applicant to perform, basically. So once an applicant is approved by council, upon approval, they'll come into the office and place a bond. It ensures to city and staff, letting us know that they're serious about moving forward in their business. And they run the risk of forfeiting that bond should they not perform. So once approved, we're proposing that they'll have a year to perform, to secure their location, submit for their tenant improvements, get it done, and get open. If at the end of those 12 months, if they have not been able to perform, then they forfeit that bond. If they do come through on all of their tenant improvements and they become open and operational within those 12 months, the bond is absolutely refundable. We keep no part of it.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. I appreciate that. I just don't think it's quite enough based on what everyone's talking about this industry generating and based on what we've already seen in the 18 months that we've been operating. And we didn't have that requirement in the beginning. So I would support increasing that to probably $100,000 bond. You know, something's better than nothing. I agree with that. And 25,000 is nothing to sneeze at. But these people are serious business people, and if they've got the background and the funding and everything else, the $100,000 refundable bond should not be an issue.
Is that a proposal?
Okay.
Is that what? Yeah.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Mulvihill.
Thank
you. Thank you, Mr. Charette. Appreciate it. Let's try to avoid the crosstalk, please. Mr. Nickel, you had your hand raised. Mr. Mulvihill, if you can mute your mic, please. Thank you. Mr. Nickel, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I agree with my colleagues, Councilmember Mulvihill and Charette. And I'm willing, I think I proposed the 200,000 and I'm willing to meet in the middle at 100,000. But I think my big
200. I'll go with
what's that?
Because it's only 10%. Right.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'll go with the 200.
Okay, Mr. Charette,
meet in the middle at 100?
Hold on, Mr. Nickel. Mr. Nickel, hold on. I'm trying to referee a match here. Mr. Charette, please stop the crosstalk. Mr. Mulvihill, just wait to be recognized. We'll get to you, sir. Not a problem.
Proposal, I'm seconding it.
Mr. Mulvihill, please stop interrupting the chair. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mute your microphone.
Stop preaching.
I'll
Stop preaching. You're an embarrassment.
Mr. Mulvihill, please. Thank you. Mr. Nickel, go ahead.
Yeah, my question of staff is, given our experience to date, we still have outstanding litigation. I want to make sure we cover our costs and our exposure in this process. And I want to make sure our bonds help us ensure that we can mitigate whatever potential risks may be associated with this process. And I'll be honest, 25,000 we spend that much on a lawyer just to review paperwork. So I think my big concern is to ensure that there's adequate skin in the game on the part of applicants. I think a higher amount is, and I think given the relative newness of these processes, I think a lot of cities and jurisdictions are still trying to figure this out as well. But I think we've come a long way as a city. I think we've learned a lot of lessons. And I think a higher bond amount would be, in my mind, appropriate. And from what I've heard from many legitimate members of the industry, they've proposed a higher bond amount too. That ensures that we deal with the most bona fide applicants possible. So I'll entertain the $200,000. I'll withdraw my second and I'll go ahead and support a substitute motion that goes with the original recommendation, but increases the bond amount to 200,000.
Okay,
How rude, Henry! You didn't ask me if I was fine with that.
all right. Councilman Nickel has a substitute motion with a second by Mr. Charette. And Mr. Sanchez, if we could please avoid the crosstalk. Thank you, sir. There's a substitute and a second, and let's call for the roll on the whole motion with that provision of $200,000. Ms. City Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
No.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel?
Yes.
Councilmember Richard is absent. Councilmember Mulvihill?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item number 3 is a temporary use permit guidance with Contractors Construction Yards. This is to adopt a resolution of the Mayor and City Council establishing guidance relating to the issuance of temporary use permits that allow on-site and off-site contractors construction yards for approved demolition projects. Mr. Field.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a recommendation from staff to modify our procedures to ensure that we have clarity with respect to what can and cannot happen in certain areas. It's been raised by the issues up in Vermont. This is developed by Mike Huntley and his staff, so I'm going to kick it over to Mike Huntley. Michael.
Thanks, Rob. And just for the benefit of the City Council, the reason why this item is back before the City Council was at the October 7th City Council meeting, Councilman Nichols had some concerns associated with what we'll refer to now as the Oxbow project up on North Palm in the Vermont area. Based on those concerns, Councilman Nichols asked for council consensus at that meeting. He received council's consensus, and based on that, staff was really only supposed to return with an update. Subsequent to looking at the issues and evaluating that based on discussion with Chris Jensen, our Public Works Director, and the City Manager and the City Attorney's Office, we felt we needed to do a little bit more than just coming back to City Council with an update. So part of this will cover what the agenda item is, and this is going to be a recommendation for Council to adopt a resolution that'll modify or that'll establish a process by which staff will go back to a code amendment associated with our temporary use permits. But I'd like to jump back and talk about a little bit of the history about the project itself. And this is in the Vermont area of the city. Back in December of 2009, the mayor and the city council did approve a tentative tract map that would allow the subdivision of 44 lots. 43 of those would be new single-family residential parcels, and one would be a retention base. Since 2009, the applicant and subsequent owner of the property has come to the city, and they have received extensions to their tentative map that is allowed pursuant to the Subdivision Map Act. Now, the current owner, and we'll refer to it as Oxbow SB, but we'll just call it the developer, is presently moving forward with the project. Over the last 3 years, they've submitted a variety of plans to the city for consideration. The grading plans have been reviewed and approved by the city, but permits have not been pulled. The street improvement plans and sewer plans have also been reviewed by the city. And there are a wide variety of other plans that have been reviewed by the city, as well as outside agency approvals for a wide variety of issues when you're building up in hillside areas such as this within the city. In July of this year, the applicant had submitted for a temporary use permit application to do stockpiling of construction materials on the property itself. This application was reviewed by the planning division, which is under me, as well as the Public Works Department. Subsequent to the review of it, we did issue approval that would allow for the stockpile of concrete material on the subject site, with a variety of conditions of approval which were designed to mitigate some of the issues associated with that, some of which I'll get to in a minute. Subsequent to the approval of that, the Public Works Department did also issue a hauling permit that would allow for the hauling and stockpiling of material up on the project site itself. Following the city's approval and given the presence of the number of vehicles or trucks that were traveling up and down Palm Avenue, concerns were raised by the Vermont neighborhood, raising concerns, which brought City Councilman Nichols to bring this to the City Council and ask for us to come back with input. So staff has also looked at our existing process, and pursuant to the San Bernardino Municipal Code, the planning division under my supervision is allowed to issue temporary use permits subsequent to the code. And in this particular case, what the approval was for the approval of an on and off site contractor's construction yard in conjunction with a development permit, which they have through the city. Following the review and taking a look at this, we did have some general concerns associated with our current process. So with that, what we are concerned about is some of the additional components of bringing the material onto the project site. So with that, we felt that we should add something to our temporary use section that will add additional components to it, so that we clarify some of the issues associated with stockpiling on contractor storage yards. You see on page 37 of the City Council agenda packet related to this item, we do identify 4 additional items we are recommending Council consider. We will come back at a future time with these as a code amendment to the City Council. These include stockpiling of building materials shall only be permitted in conjunction with the issuance of a city grading permit or a building permit. That stockpiling of building materials should consist of finished materials ready for grading and construction. That no TUP be issued to permit crushing or grinding of unfinished raw materials such as rock, concrete, or other similar materials at a residentially zoned site or at any other zone within 500 feet of a residential zone. We want to make sure that we try to cover all areas associated with that. So what you have in front of you is a resolution we're recommending Council to take action on tonight, associated with kind of improving our internal process within the code. I also want to provide an update to you as well. That was one of the things that the Council asked for at the October 7th meeting. I think this will answer some of the public's concerns associated with this project. So as I've indicated before, there is an approved entitlement, goes back to 2009, for the development of 43 new single-family lots. Staff has gone through all of the plans to date, and all those do comply with local ordinance. There was some concerns associated with a variance on the retaining wall height. In 2009, when Council took this under consideration, the applicant at the time was able to redesign the project, and there's not a 26-foot high retaining wall along the south property line, but the max would be only 8 foot in height. Grading permits have been approved and signed by the city. We're just waiting for them to come in and pull their permit for grading along with their bonds. The grading plans also show that all the appropriate drainage is being taken into account associated with the development of the site. There was concerns mentioned by the public about sheet flowing across Palm Avenue. The plans that we have looked at, and this is Ms. Jensen and her staff and myself, who have looked at, and that does actually comply with all of the NPDES standards for drainage. So to share with the public, currently the property owner has indicated to us that they have recently sold the property to another developer. That came to our attention sometime last week. We've had a chance to reach out to the new developer. We've talked to their representative a couple times, and it's their intent to move forward with the development of the project. And really at this point, they're working with us to identify the associated cost with the bonds to move the project forward. As it relates to the concrete, the city has requested that the applicant do lab tests on it. The concrete, for the public's benefit, came from the Amazon building that was in Redlands that caught fire sometime last year. Based on information they shared, they did provide 2 letters to us that it has indicated that the concrete is clean. Based on the residents' concerns, we felt it was important to actually have lab tests done to verify that. They have indicated to us that they are doing those tests, and we may have the results back as soon as this Friday. As far as other issues associated with the concrete on the property and the grading activities, no processing or crushing of concrete material is authorized under the current temporary use permit. It'll only be authorized once the grading permit is issued for the site. Like I've indicated, we have to get the lab test first and evaluate those lab tests before we allow them to start. Let's just see here. We also are requiring that they post all the necessary bonds associated with the grading permit in this material too. So there's some assurance there that there's the bonding necessary to deal with that material. Let's just see here. And that really at this point, we wanted to convey to the Vertimont residents, Chris Jensen and I have made a commitment to the Vertimont residents, not only with this project, but future residential development for the public's benefit and Council. There's a half a dozen other projects that are pending in the neighborhood, some of which, and I will state this, and we put this information out to the Vertimont lead people in regards to the Rancho Palma. They've started doing the rough grading. That's over on Little League, just south of the soccer complex. So there will be other projects moving forward. but we've already made a commitment to say that for all future projects, we'll make sure that we put information out on the street so that everyone is up to speed. And we're also committed to continue to put out information on this particular project as things proceed as well. So that concludes my presentation. That includes the resolution component and the update. I'm just going to turn to Chris Jensen and ask her if there's anything else she'd like to share.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I think, Mike, that you've covered it well. I think one of the other big points that we talked about in terms of when a grading permit is issued is that we will also require that the material after it's processed remain on site. So this will not be a situation where the site's being used as a recycling center for the concrete and then being shipped off somewhere else. It's our understanding that that material is intended to be used on site. And I know that Council Member Nickel, that was one of the concerns that you had shared with me. So I just wanted to make sure that that was included as well. But thank you, Mike.
And if I could just add one more comment for the public's benefit. So Public Works staff has actually been on the site many times. During the hauling up there, they were out on the site 2 or 3 times a day. Recently, they've been up there working with the applicant. As part of the temporary use permit, as well as what they call the SWIP, both of those do require that they cover the material. They have not done that to date. We hear the public loudly when it comes to that. Ms. Jensen's reached out to them as well as her staff, and they are pushing them, the existing owner who's still active on the property, and new owner, to get that material covered as soon as possible. I know if I'm not mistaken, they were trying to shoot for this Friday, but you know, we are pushing them to get that completed. So with that, that concludes staff's presentation. Both Chris Jensen and I are available for questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Huntley. We'll open it up to council members. Councilmember Barr, go ahead.
Yes, and this is for our staff. On page 37, for the TUP and the distance from residentially zoned, can we increase from 500 to 1,000 feet? Is that feasible? And the reason I asked is because, for example, this Oxbow project is really close to homes, and I know up in the hill, they do get a lot of air blowing down to their homes, sometimes even causing their trash cans to fall over. Just want to make sure that we have a safe enough space between these construction zones and residential for the future for any other projects that may come. Is that okay?
If council feels that's a more appropriate distance, staff would be willing to go along with that. When we were looking at this particular distance, we're looking, so we have to look over the entire community and look at where these facilities might come in. So we're not only looking just the Vertimont area, but we could get opportunities in the city where they might tear down a building. So with that said, we want to make sure there's adequate distance between, we'll say, an industrial or a commercial property which is adjacent to residential. So with that said, kind of looking at the distance requirements and size of properties, I think probably 1,000 feet would be an appropriate distance.
And will any of my colleagues entertain that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is that a second, Sandra? You second that?
Oh, yeah, I can second it.
Okay. Okay, moving on to Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, I have a number of questions, but first I want to thank staff. I want to thank my colleagues for supporting the motion at the last council meeting and the public. There's been quite an outcry, and I think we can certainly learn from this experience, and we want to ensure, first and foremost, that we protect the health and safety of all our residents, regardless of where they live in our city. I do have a number of questions, and I would like to just begin. I did receive copies of both the temporary use permit and the hauling permit. The temporary use permit dated on July 1st. It specifies that the location, size, design of the proposed construction yard and stockpile of materials would not impair the subject zone and will be conditioned to comply and minimize any impacts associated with the temporary land use within the residential low zone. This is section 1 of that permit. Permit also specifies in section 5, the proposed use is temporary in nature and will be conditioned to ensure that it will not have detrimental impacts to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the city. And that 6, The site where it's located is in existing disturbed conditions. The land use of a temporary construction yard with stockpile of materials is a permitted use subject to the approval of a temporary use permit. And the proposed use would be temporary to construct an approved land use. My question is this first: are the materials as they exist usable for construction in their present form? And was the transport of this type of material authorized under this permit? So understanding we authorize construction material, is this in fact construction material, or is it in fact debris that cannot be used for construction in its current form? That's my first question.
Well, I would say that this is construction debris that would have to be processed. Once it's processed, then it can be used in the grading activities for the site.
Okay. So that first question is related to the permit itself as to whether or not the permittee in fact complied with the conditions contained in that permit. My next question is, does the temporary use permit or the hauling permit authorize the crushing or grinding of concrete?
So let me speak to the TUP. The TUP does not, and I would say that I'll speak for Ms. Jensen. The hauling permit does not either. It would have to be part of the grading activities.
Okay. Was the crushing or grinding of concrete mentioned in any place within the temporary use permit or the hauling permit?
Since I've looked at both, neither.
Okay. Was crushing or grinding anticipated when the temporary use permit or the hauling permits were issued?
It was my understanding that based on discussions with staff, they had some understanding that that may occur on the property.
Okay, but there was no explicit authorization to engage in crushing or grinding.
Not as part of the TUP or the hauling permit.
Right.
Okay. Was any authorization or assurance provided that crushing or grinding would be permitted by staff?
Not that I'm aware, to be honest.
Okay. And is there any documentation that staff was made aware that the materials subject to this temporary use permit would be subject to crushing or grinding on the site prior to issuance of these permits?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that staff had some inkling that they were bringing concrete from the Amazon site.
Okay, and when and how was the city notified that crushing or grinding might occur at this site? When and how?
Okay, I would have to go back and talk to our staff a little more in depth about it, but my understanding was that they knew that material would be coming from the Amazon site and placed on the property for future use for the grading on the facility. So there's nothing in either the TUP or the hauling permit that says specifically that crushing would be incorporated into that activity.
Okay, I have just a few more questions and then I'll wrap up. Has the city authorized the hauling of any materials subject to crushing or grinding off the site?
No.
Okay.
No.
And is the city under any obligation to approve the crushing or grinding of concrete material on this site? Are we under any obligation whatsoever?
No.
Okay. How long is it anticipated that this crushing or grinding may occur, if it is allowed to occur?
So based on discussions that Chris Jensen and I had with the contractor for this project, they anticipated it would be from 4 to 6 weeks to do the crushing activities on the property. And that would be during regular construction hours, not outside of those hours, and not on the weekends.
Okay, my only recommendation, I support the addition of the 1,000 foot requirement. I would also ask that we apply these same standards to all grading permits that are issued in the future as well. And that apply to the potential grading permit that would potentially be applied for in this case.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Nichol. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I think my comments pretty much have been satisfied with what Mike dealt with. I was on the planning commission when the project proposed the 26-foot wall made up of the crib wall, like you'd have over on the cuts on the freeway. You know, and again, I'm just saying that even if the staff had known that the concrete was coming from the Amazon project, I would just assume reasonably they would do the crushing at the Amazon project, because that would be much more efficient than holding all those blocks that have a lot of crevices and empty spaces. In other words, you know, the logical assumption was that they would crush it there if they're going to ultimately be crushed. So I think the logical reasoning, if staff had heard about the concrete, that it would be crushed in Redlands and carried over here. And you know, talking about the crushing of stone, you've got obviously the noise problem, and all this is CEQA. You know, this is another point of their project. I mean, there should have been an EIR on this one, talking about having crushed materials processed on site. I mean, I'm sure certainly that was not part of the EIR process, and so at the very least, if they wanted to do this, they'd probably have to go through another environmental review, because this is a new project. They're crushing stone on site, and so I would just say that you know, not only should we you know, not wait for a grading permit, we should. This is unreasonable to ask the city of San Bernardino to allow this the stone to be crushed on site. Plus, the high winds. I mean, you know, we have a weather station on Cal State campus, and during wintertime in the Vertimont, you have several events in which you have 75-mile-an-hour plus windstorms, and I think that the people there can tell you that how often they have to go run after their trash cans that are blowing like sailing ships across. So, you know, the point is that there's all kinds of implications in terms of environmental standards here. That the idea of crushing stone was never part of the original proposal, and again, this makes this a new project. Thank you.
Okay. If I may ask for a clarification quickly.
Yeah. Hold on. Just to clarify, Councilman.
Sure.
Let me just try to refresh the conversation here. We'll get to you, Councilman Nichol, just a second. We have a amended motion by Councilman Sanchez for 1,000 feet, seconded by Ibarra, and we're talking about this temporary use permit, and we've had some discussion. Councilman Nichol, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I would ask that the makers of the motion allow an amendment that would include that all grading permits be subject to these same requirements. And I do have a question for our legal counsel, that being the case, it would appear that we do not have, or that staff does not have the authority now, should this resolution proceed as amended, to issue a grading permit that would allow crushing.
I'll second that if you need it.
And is that, if you could please ensure, we've just been through a series of questions here. I assume we are protected. We are not assuming any liability here, given the fact that the TUP did not specify, nor does it appear did it anticipate the crushing of material.
Yes, that's acknowledged.
Okay. Okay. Then if the makers of the motion would accept my friendly amendment.
Councilman Sanchez, are you amenable to that?
You're muted.
So I need some clarification. So in this case, the debris would be tied into the grading permit, is my understanding, right?
Correct.
Okay. So in this case, this reso would apply in this case to this project. My concern here is that had they been aware that this was the case, they would not have hauled this debris here in the first place. And now to haul, I don't know how many metric tons of this debris off-site, and then to bring it back on would be prohibitively expensive. These individuals were basing their decisions off of a set of rules and assumptions, and now that they moved this debris up there, we've changed course. I did my due diligence, and I went to some of these crush sites and checked this out for myself. And as long as those lab studies come back that concrete isn't going to be poisoning the ground or the air, I'm perfectly fine with them crushing this at this point at that location. I would want this to start after any project, but to do this right now, I mean, this is a tremendous blow to an individual that went off of different assumptions. And so I don't think this would be right for the city. I mean, we can, but it doesn't mean we should. So I can't support that. I support this resolution. I just can't support it being applied to this project at this time.
I wish to make a substitute motion that we accept the resolution as written and amend to include the increase from 500 feet to 1,000 feet for a residential zone, and apply the TUP restrictions to all grading permits effective immediately.
Second that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would.
Councilman Charette.
Well, my colleague, Mr. Sanchez, said it perfectly, and I think this is typical of San Bernardino, frankly. Right. These people operated under assumptions that staff made to them. I
don't think staff did.
I understand. Well, I
don't think developer did either.
Okay, council members, let Councilman Charette mute your mics, please. Let's just have one conversation. Go ahead, Mr. Charette.
I don't think anybody came in here on either side with nefarious. They thought, can we do this? And we implied that they could. And it's my understanding that everything that we've done up to this point is I didn't do as well as Theodore did and go out and actually look at crushing. But I understand that the crushing process includes misters, includes it's separate. It's not going to have the impact that it is. And for 4 to 6 weeks, I understand and I empathize with the community, but this is something we just cannot send the message that we change rules in the middle of the stream or that somebody gets a project moving. And I can support this going forward, but not to include this particular project. So if that's what we're talking about, and it's not in my ward, I get it, but we're desperately looking for housing, and it's got to be pencil out, as they say, and to move all this product up there based on, I think maybe it was assumptions, but the definition of assumption, don't y'all? Assume. I'm not going to say it publicly, but y'all have heard the definition of assume, and I just don't think we should be doing this to developers and people. And it kind of goes back to something we talked about a little earlier. I won't even mention the item, but it kind of goes back to something we mentioned earlier in the evening, and changing rules in the middle of the game. That's one of the problems that I think the city of San Bernardino has experienced, and it's largely because we make a change in council members, or we make a change in a city manager, or we make a change in a community development director, and then all of a sudden everything changes, and we go back and we have people that have come in with good faith to try to invest and deal in our community, and agree. 4 to 6 weeks, it's not a lifetime, and I do believe that this is going to be done in an appropriate way with proper precautions for dust and debris. And if the product has been tested and is safe, I'm not going to support an item that that says move what 35 truckloads of material up there, dump it so you can grind it and use it for fill up there, and then come back and say, oh, we changed our mind. We want you to pick it up and take it out of here, grind it, and then bring it back. The item's not going to, the project is not going to pencil.
Okay, let's, final comment, Councilmember Barr, and then we're going to take a vote on this. I think we've had some good conversation. And then, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Figueroa, and then we'll call for a vote. Mr. Barr, then Mr. Figueroa, go ahead. Mr. Barr?
Just real quick, I know my colleague, Henry Nickel, he did ask several line of questions to our city staff. And I'm just curious if anybody listened to the answers from our city staff. Obviously, this developer has a permit currently, and they have not been abiding even by some of those required by the city. So by you guys trying to leave out this developer from following our city's guidelines is very concerning. That's my only comment I want to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Figueroa, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. In fact, one of my questions was already answered, but Mr. City Manager, you and I had a conversation recently about this situation, and a situation, although not exactly similar to this one, but a situation that resembles the results of the Oxbow project. The area, of course, is, you went with me along the tour over at the Valley College on Hillcrest Avenue. And though I understand the differences between these two locations, the Valley College location has cement blocks as well being dumped, along with other materials, and the residents perceive it to be similar to this situation. Their perception is that their neighborhood gets dumped on, and the moment a more affluent neighborhood receives what they have been putting up with, all of a sudden everyone is off their chairs and dancing here. This leads to feelings of inequity on their part. Their perceived discrimination stems from the difference in treatment one area of the city receives compared to other areas. And I personally know of differences in treatment just simply based off of Go request responses and how some of those are handled. And you and I can share that conversation offline. But simply put, the residents in other areas of the city, specifically in this case, in my case, Valley College neighborhood location, they're fed up. They're tired of being ignored and tired of seeing how quick everyone gets up to dance when a certain part of town starts playing some music. So, I can support, Mr. Nickel. I completely understand what you're going through here. I would be irate as well, along with the residents. But without receiving equal attention to the cleanup that is needed over at Valley College location or other parts of the city as well, it's difficult. I don't care if it means having the city to clean it up and then sending the bill to the owner of the property. And that goes for every site that gets dumped on as well. We need to start taking a strong stance against the dumping on our city.
Okay, Ms. City Clerk, let's go ahead and call the roll, please, on the alternate motion by Nickel, supported by Mulvihill, on the extension of 1,000 feet and required effective immediately. Ms. City Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez.
No.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Yes.
Councilmember Charette.
No.
Councilmember Nickel.
Yes.
Councilmember Richard is absent. Councilmember Mulvihill.
You're
Councilmember
muted,
Mulvihill.
Jim. You're muted.
Excuse the technology flub. Yes.
The motion is 4 in favor, 2 in opposition, and 1 absent.
Okay. Motion passes. That's the prerogative of this city council. I understand the passionate arguments on both ends. Frankly, your mayor does side with Councilmember Sanchez and Councilman Charette on the burdensome change out of rules. It's unfortunate that we do have this situation. I won't veto it tonight. I think that's just it's your decision, Council. You want it effective immediately. I think it's a sends a signal to the community that may cause a moment of pause for the community development process. So we'll move forward. Item number 4 is a public hearing regarding resolution adopting the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for General Plan Amendment 1903, 1908, and a resolution approving subdivision 19-6 and a development permit type D 19.3. This is known as the Foisey East project. The recommendation is before you. I'll ask the city clerk to please read into the record the title of ordinance MC 1546. The city clerk.
Ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, approving Development Code Amendment, Zoning Map Amendment 19-08 to change the zoning district classification from public park to industrial light of 3 parcels, APN numbers 0281-151-07, 08, and 09, containing a total of approximately 13.97 acres pursuant to a mitigated negative declaration. Mayor, you're muted.
Can I get a please get a staff report opening the public hearing at approximately 8:52 p.m. and a staff report, please.
Yes, this again is in falls within Mike Huntley's area of responsibility. So Mike, can you lead this, please?
Thanks, Rob. So actually, Oliver Mojica and Travis Martin will be doing the presentation tonight. When they're finished, they'll be available for questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Travis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitch. Looking for the presentation to come up. So as mentioned, the project this evening is a general plan amendment, a development code map amendment, subdivision, and a development permit. This is for the Foisey East project. Next slide, please. This is for the development ultimately of a approximately 467,000 square foot industrial warehouse, property located at the southeast corner of Foisey Street and East Central Avenue on just over 20 acres in total size. And the property currently is zoned public park and industrial light. As was mentioned, the general plan amendment and zoning map amendment this evening would be to change the 3 parcels that are under the public park designation to industrial light for continuity throughout the entire property. Next slide, please. As mentioned, it's property on the south side of Central Avenue, just east of Foisey, which is just off of Waterman. The property currently, just a little bit of background for everyone. The majority of the property currently houses the Norton Science Language Academy. This project this evening is tied to the previous project that we looked at with the school at the beginning of this year. The school, as everyone may know, is currently under construction to build a new campus a little bit north on Waterman, more towards the center of the city. And this project was tied in with that, in that there was a land swap so that the developer with property that they currently own, or they originally owned further north, could acquire property down here in amongst the other industrial projects. Next slide, please. As you can see, about 3/4 of the site right now, even though it's only 3 of the parcels comprise that public park zoning, that would be changed to industrial light to make it contiguous with the rest of the area. And next slide. And as I did mention, there is the general plan amendment and zoning map amendment to change approximately 14 acres of the 20, and then ultimately to consolidate the 10 parcels into a single parcel for the development. As was mentioned in the title of the ordinance, this project was subject to a mitigated negative declaration. That was reviewed, commented on, and is included in your packet. And as part of that, there was a mitigation monitoring program that was prepared for the project. It includes a number of mitigation measures to address any impacts that may arise through the development of this site. And next slide. These are just some pictures of the existing property. This is on Central Avenue looking south with Foyce Street just to your right. This is kind of the existing school campus. And next slide. And this is further south on Foyce, kind of the mix. This is off the property where the school currently is. It's just kind of a mix of some older, kind of somewhat vacant industrial sites. There is some old residential in the area. It's really just kind of a hodgepodge of sort of uses. And next slide. And this is the proposed site plan for the site. I apologize, it is turned. North would be to the left on the drawing. That would be where Central Avenue is. South, or the bottom of the drawing, is Foyce Street. You can see it's the single industrial building. It's a little hard to make out with all the details on the plans, but truck courts along the north and east sides for vehicular parking, and then you can see the larger inset for the semi-truck docks on the east and west side of the project site, which are top and bottom on this image. And next slide. And these are the kind of the typical elevations of the project site. This is a look, if people are familiar with the other construction going on in this area, this would be, upon approval, the 7th building that this developer is looking to do in this area. They have 2 that they're currently wrapping up on Waterman, 4 over off of Washington Avenue, just to the west. This design is really consistent with what they've done with their other buildings. What you're looking at in these images along the top image, that would be the Central Avenue frontage. You see large office areas on both corners, and then articulation both in color throughout the wall panel and then along the roof line. And then the drawing on the bottom would be the frontage along Foyce. So you still have offices along the north and south corners, and then the truck dock, which would be screened by the typical screen wall along the street. And next slide. Landscaping plan. As I mentioned, this does show the site plan a little bit better. You can see where you have the vehicular parking kind of all fronting the street, specifically along Central Avenue, and a little bit on the south end of the building, which is to the right. And then the truck courts on both sides. Truck parking backing up to Foyce Avenue, but with significant screen wall and then landscaping that would buffer that from the public right of way. And next slide. And with that, that does conclude my presentation. The recommendation this evening, as was noted, is to adopt the resolution approving the mitigation monitoring plan and the general plan amendment, the ordinance for the zoning map amendment, and then the resolution for the subdivision and the development of the site itself. With that, I will open it up.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to slide number 10. I need some clarification on the landscaping plan. Can you please tell us, for the council members, there's no orientation as to where north is, and I think you had mentioned prior to, can you explain the landscaping? Where is central on this map?
Yes, so I'm sorry, the drawing, just because of the size, did have to get rotated for the presentation. North is the left side of the image.
Okay.
So you see there is...
So that's central, the left side is central,
yes,
which is...
the left side of the image is Central Avenue.
Okay.
The south side of the image would then be Foyce. You see, you do have the, like I said, the primary parking areas for vehicular traffic up along Central Avenue and wrapping that corner. A little bit of that parking with some additional landscaping at the very south end of the...
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. The south side would be, would that be San Bernardino? Because Foyce is east of the project area, so it wouldn't technically be south.
I'm sorry, thank you. I realized I did misspeak. I meant the bottom of this drawing. That was my my mistake.
Okay, so the bottom is Foyce Street, which is west.
Foyce is the bottom of the image that you're looking at, which would be the west side of the project site. It does say it on there, but I think just at this scale, it's a little bit ghosted.
Okay, all right. And the southerly portion of the site, is that facing San Bernardino Road?
No, if we can we jump back? I believe it's slide 3 would show this a little bit better.
Okay.
So actually the next slide I think would help. So the project area is what's bound in the black outline on this. You have Central Avenue along the top, Foyce along the west side. And then none of the other side, the south and east sides of the project site don't abut any streets. What
Okay.
is closest would be Lena Avenue to the west or to the east. And there's another industrial development going in there already. It was approved a couple years ago. And then to the south would be not Dumas. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank at the moment.
So the south abuts no main road.
The south doesn't. No, sorry, Norman. Norman would be the next street south. It would be just off of this image, and then below that would be Orange Show Road, where it turns into San Bernardino Avenue.
Okay. All right. Can we go back to slide 10, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's I get it. So Norman Road would be the southerly portion, and that's where you get the landscaping. Okay. And now the
I'm sorry if I may. There's actually several properties that would sit between the southern portion of this property and Norman Road. The only street frontages that this actually has are along Central and Fleece.
All right. Is there a brick wall on the southerly portion then of this project?
I have that. Let me bring it up. I can actually speak. I know we do have the developer I see on the conference as well. They may be able to speak a little bit to the improvements along the southern portion.
Yeah, welcome, Jason. Tell us about the southerly portion. Is there a brick wall there?
No, it's 8-foot tubular steel wrought iron, and so it's consistent with what we've done on the other projects to eliminate a canvas for tagging. It's intended to be landscaped pretty heavily, so it does screen out any views or sight line for the neighbors, but it is not intended to be a brick or tilt wall.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then the dock walls are both on the east and the west. Go back to the elevations. I think it's there.
The elevations here just show the building just for clarity. They don't show the dock walls. Say on the east side, what would be interior to the project site, that does abut, I believe that's also just the tubular fencing because that does abut another industrial warehouse development. Along the west side, I believe what we've done with the other projects, and correct me, Jason, if I misspeak, it is a mix of wrought iron and the block walls with the landscaping in front.
Yes. So what we've done on, like I said earlier, what we've done on the other walls are a mixture of maybe it's a 4-foot high concrete or brick wall with pilaster columns every 10 to 15 feet and wrought iron in the middle. It goes up about 12 to 14 feet high. We worked with staff on the other projects at length to try to create this one sense of security, to eliminate any sightline issues or seen trucks with the landscaping, and then also to eliminate any potential areas that could be tagged.
Okay, all right. We'll open it up for comments. Councilman Figueroa, sir, do you have any? I sometimes have trouble either hearing or seeing you, but do you have any comments, questions? This is technically in the 3rd district.
I do, but I'm having a hard time with the.
You're having, okay. Should we come back to you, Councilman? Why don't we do that, Councilman Figueroa? We'll come back to you.
I was trying to figure out how to unmute it with the presentation still on. It's hard to figure it out. Okay.
Floor is yours, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Well, let me just quickly provide a brief history lesson for some of us here. Back about 6 years ago or so, we had the closure of a fire station located on the corner of Mill and Arrowhead. We just recently talked about, the previous item about the cement blocks that are coming in from a fire, from a warehouse fire, so that it's going to tie in to this. The closure of that station left the area dependent on fire stations located a little bit further away. Now with this area growing as it is and the increase of warehouses, I have a growing concern with the public safety for this area. Like I said, we've already heard about the warehouse that burned down off of the 10 freeway. And just a few weeks or so ago, there was a pallet yard adjacent, I think, to this location as well, just right next to it, engulfed in flames. So I feel my concerns are warranted. With the increase of warehouses, not only have they impacted our roads, but it is slowly creating a public safety issue as well. So, to our city manager, I'd like to ask for some type of assurance moving forward that we start considering the expense of a fire station and work it into some formula or algorithm or however staff comes up with that, and consider it with this type of growth and development for this area as well. I need some type of assurance that this will be taken serious and part of the agreement for growth in this area as well.
Yes, we understand. Yep, that will absolutely take place.
Mr. Phil, I think the importance of Mr. Figueroa's expressed concerns, former representative for that district, a lot of the constituents in the area were very happy to see a lot of growth out in the southerly portion of the city, certainly in the 3rd district, providing a lot of jobs. Mr. Krotz, this is a great opportunity to partner with the city. This is an opportunity for you to invest your dollars here, provide jobs. Ultimately, we want to continue that partnership with you, sir, but be rest assured that we are going to be very exacting on our next come around, that we want community benefits for our community. We have infrastructure needs. We have a lot of council prioritized needs in the community, and one of them being a fire station. And so, Mr. Krotz, can you speak to that?
Sure. I appreciate your time tonight, Mayor and Council. As you are aware, this is our 3rd project in the city. It's been an effort that we've been working on for I'd say the last 3 or 4 years. This particular project, as it was described by staff, is a 3+ year effort working with the County of San Bernardino Chief Executive Office, the Real Estate Department, the Lewis Center for Continuing Education, and the city. We worked diligently to try to resolve an issue that both the county and city had with the tenant of this property. In doing so, we did this land swap. It was well vetted by every expert or every person that had touched it. And as a result, nothing was ever discussed about us making a contribution to the community for either a fire station or a community contribution benefit fee.
Let's talk, Mr. Krotz. Let's talk about the road ahead. We're not here to we're here to partner with you.
I understand.
But talk about the road ahead. I mean, how are you going to help? You just heard from the councilman his desire and the need for infrastructure. Address that particular portion. Let's not look in the rearview mirror. Let's look the road ahead.
So sure. Well, I do want to recognize the fact that our first 2 projects contributed $10.8 million of infrastructure to the immediate area, of which we received about $1.9 million of credits towards it. This particular project is going to provide about $2.6 million directly to the city in development impact fees, and then another $1.5 million in infrastructure improvements. So it's a total of about $4.3 million of direct community or direct investment in your community. We have desire to continue developing in the city. We think that we've got a great working relationship. We've appreciated our partnership thus far. We have other sites that have been identified in the area to continue to assemble. So I think, we could have a discussion moving forward as we go through the entitlements of future projects about how we become a better community partner and try to help raise some funds or get some other commitments to your efforts.
Very good. Thank you for that reassurance, Mr. Krotz. We appreciate your investment. We thank you.
I'd like to move to approve.
Move for approval on this item. Is there a second?
Mayor,
Second by
Just a second.
Councilmember Nickel. And yes, Ms. City Court?
we have two requests to speak for this public hearing.
We'll get to that in just a moment. Mr. Mulvihill, go ahead, sir.
Mayor, you brought up a interesting point. Being on a couple of commissions with SCAG, I talked with several other cities in Southern California, and it's quite common that in major developments like that, there's always a community benefits clause that at least, for example, 35% of the employment is hired locally. And I'm just wondering, do we have such a clause like that in this agreement? Anyone?
Mr. Krotz, I know that
No, we don't.
locally, right?
No, it's not. It is not a part of the conditions of approval, but we
Okay.
do have obviously the union labor that we are hiring. That's all.
Well, that's, yeah, and they, each one said that they're talking about the community, but they're talking about the Inland Empire and so forth. I'm talking about San Bernardino itself. I think that in the future, and I just pass this on to community development, that it's quite common that the communities have benefits clauses and to hire locally. It's like the local preference that's given to, contractors and so forth. So, obviously this has gone, to this, we're approving it tonight. But the reality is, I think in all future projects like this, I think community development should be on notice that we need to have a community benefits clause this. I mean, I'm talking here about employment, at least 35% from the city of San Bernardino, whether they're union labor, carpenters, whatever it happens to be. But we need to hire locally. It's quite common, and I'm saddened that it hasn't been adopted here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Mulvihill. Councilmember Ibarra, go ahead.
Yes, and maybe city staff can correct me here. I believe there is a fire station off of Waterman and Vanderbilt, correct? I think I've seen one there.
Yes, there is. Station number 12.
And do you know what the distance is between that fire station and this location? I was trying to find out right now real quick, but maybe 2 miles maybe?
I would say that's kind of a fair approximation. Yes.
Okay, so that concern about a fire is mitigated there. My concern though with converting park zoned area into industrial zone. I know Foisey, that street is very small. From the looks of the proposed project, it looks like there's going to be a lot of semis going into that area. We did hear from a resident who lives in that area as well with her concerns. I think it would be nice, and maybe something for a developer, Mr. Jason, maybe keep some of that as a park. I think that would benefit even the employees who work there. Not make it all into industrial, just keep some of that park. That way the employees can take a walk around that area. Otherwise, the other projects you said they're on Waterman, right? That you have?
Yes.
When you did that project off of Waterman, did you have the Mission Band of Indians making any, and were they involved with those two warehouses?
I believe we did have the mitigation monitoring program for the Mission Band of Indians on that project.
I can speak to those previous projects. Yes, they were one of several tribes that we did consult with, as we have on all of the projects like this in this area. And there was some standard mitigation measures that they had us include in the monitoring program for those items, as they also did this.
Okay, because I know at the October 7th meeting, there was that concern that they had to protect some tribal resources. And then I'm seeing on page 345, I believe, that is considered their territory. Were there, during the protection, the findings, was it ever discovered that there were any sacred lands in jeopardy with this project in question?
Those issues were not raised in our consultation with the tribes.
Okay, so they just want to be part of the work that's going to get done there. Right?
Correct. Primarily, their concerns generally revolve around any subsurface work that's done on the site. They do want to have appropriate monitors on there in case any objects or other remains may be discovered, so that those can be protected.
Okay. I believe those are my only questions. I'm just like I said, my concern is the area, the streets, and the people who live around that area, how they're going to be affected by removing that little park that they currently have. I'm all for the environment and anything to bring clean air into the neighborhood. I'm happy with that. Just destroying it all. I mean, we had the golf club recently have some work done on there, and people were up in a hoop, about it as well. So those were my only comments. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to any other final comments. If not, we'll receive Ms. City Clerk. Please proceed with the public comments.
Okay, I have the first speaker on the line.
Go ahead.
Mr. Zamora, you have 3 minutes to address the council, and you may begin now.
Okay, can you hear me fine?
Loud and clear, go ahead. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, my name is Alex Zamora. I'm a very proud member of the Laborers International Union of North America, or LIUNA. I am in full support of this Foisey East project moving forward. Again, like the developers were saying, with our union, we work a lot with local hire and projects like this. That will ensure that our workers that are on these jobs have less time on the roads commuting. They're also going to be able to be more involved in the community, kids sports programs, other programs that they're involved in. A lot of the money that they're going to be making and having time to spend with their family out, they're going to be putting it back into the community. And on top of that, they'll be able to, have pride in building so close to home and be able to tell their family and friends, that they contribute in building something that's for the city. So again, I fully support this. I hope we can move this forward and get to work. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good night and God bless.
Thank you. Our next comment, Ms. City Clerk.
Let me get him on the line. Just one moment.
Mr. Mayor, may I? Just real
Go
quick.
ahead. Yeah.
Quick comment. Would it be better for next time we play the public comments, any that are to be referred to public hearings, that they be put during this session and not at the very beginning of the council meetings? I know we've had that in previous meetings, that public hearings, public speakers are lumped in with everybody else instead of their public hearing.
All right, Rob, we can make that request. We'll see if staff can work on that. That'd be a nice housekeeping item, just to play their comment, or if they want to be on the line. So,
through the chair.
Yeah, Councilman Shrek, go ahead.
Along those lines, these are comments about a project. They aren't really, and I have to defer to legal on this, but we normally swear people in that are going to speak in a public hearing, because it is a quasi judicial situation, isn't it, Sonia? And we normally swear people in, and with all due respect to the last speaker, it was just a comment in favor of the project, not really a testimony to the project. So I don't know, that just a thought.
City Clerk, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead.
You may begin addressing the council.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bill Quisenberry. I'm a member of the Laborers International Union of North America, and I'm in support of the Foisey East project. Approving this project will mean a skilled, trained workforce will be building it, and they'll be receiving good pay and good benefits to support their families.
Also, approving this project will enable our state-approved apprentices an opportunity to gain more construction experience. As you may know, apprenticeship is a systematic earn-as-you-learn program where on-the-job training is supplemented with classroom instruction. Apprentices must complete a number of hours of practical job experience to qualify them into completing their apprenticeship. Of our 32,000 plus members in the Labor's Union in Southern California today, approximately 2,400 are active apprentices. And during these uncertain economic times, every construction site is an opportunity for these apprentices to learn the trade. This project, if approved, would be another opportunity. Lastly, contractors that employ our members and who have partnered with responsible developers like REPA know that a skilled, well-trained workforce means productivity and safety are optimized. And that will likely happen if this project gets approved. This project is a good fit for the community and could not come at a more critical time. I urge the council members to approve this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Quisenberry. Ms. City Clerk, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll, please.
Just one moment, please. Let me turn this timer off. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
No.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Richard is absent, and Councilmember Mulvihill. Your mic is muted, sir.
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Quads. Thank you for your investment. We look forward to your future partnership in our city, and we will hold you to your community benefits plan here in our city.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, council.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. All right, moving on to our consent item for tonight. We'll go with polls. We'll start off with our first ward councilman. Councilman, any polls tonight?
No polls tonight.
All right, Councilmember Barra. Councilmember Barra.
Can you come back to me?
Councilmember Figueroa.
None tonight.
Councilmember Charette.
I have none.
Councilmember Nickel.
13 and 18.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
14. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Barr, coming back to you. Councilmember Barr.
Okay, thank you.
None tonight, no polls. All right, let's get a motion for balance of the move, or move the balance.
Move. Second.
All right, there's a motion by Charette with Sanchez on the second on move the balance. If City Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, the items on the balance have passed. We'll go down to individuals who have pulled. Councilmember Nickel, we have you down for item number 13. This is application for statewide park development grants. Mr. Nickel, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously we've applied once before, and similar to the comments I had during the last application round, some of the concern I have is a number of parcels that constitute Second Lake Park are potentially developable parcels, specifically the parcels on the northern portion of the park. And my concern is to ensure that if and when we do apply, if it's possible to carve out those parcels and not obligate them under the grant, if that is advantageous to the city as related to potential future development of those parcels. So I would just ask that we consider the potential carve out of those parcels that are not immediately or do not immediately contain either the lake or the park area. But I think the parking lot and certainly those northern parcels may be something we carve out and allow for future development. The other concern that obviously we need to consider is what is going to be the plan for this park if and when the monies are received to ensure it is secured and that it doesn't once again fall into a state of decay. So it's one thing to get the money to upgrade the park. It's quite another to ensure that those upgrades are maintained and that that park is secured in a way that ensures it is no longer vandalized or no longer deteriorates as we have seen in the past. We've invested money in the past. We've invested in the irrigation systems there and seen within a few years those irrigation systems vandalized. In many cases, the homeless have utilized that park and pushed out residents. It's no longer an attractive place for residents to congregate. So what is the plan if and when we get the $8+ million to ensure that that park remains a usable and contributing asset to our community?
Councilman Nickel, very, very good questions. I have those same concerns. We have applied for this last year, and unfortunately we didn't get it, but we're going back at it. Tonight we're simply approving the application. Point taken on your questions. How about this, Councilman Nickel? Why don't we briefly touch on it, and do we get your motion for approval on it, Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, I'll move to approve this.
All right.
Second.
All right. Motion is second. Let's briefly respond to the councilman on the issue. Mr. Field?
Yeah, your points are well taken. I've had discussions with a couple of you to this effect already. And absolutely, we will. The first priority, of course, is going to be securing the site. Jim Tickmeyer can describe that portion. And we also have, we are also contemplating precisely what Councilman Nickel is describing in terms of parcels on the north side. That too is in process. We've heard you loud and clear and are proceeding on that basis. But Jim, if you could describe a little bit about how the project intends to not only beautify but also secure the site and ensure that it continues to be usable as a family park as intended. Jim?
Well, part of the project scope of work is to fence the perimeter of the park, including the areas that are potentially going to be redeveloped into housing on the corner of 7th and Sierra Way. And just to touch back on that, the identified project area that we've submitted the application on excludes those parcels that we identified in the previous application. So the contribution from the state and the project that the parcels that would be affected by the grant funding that would come through excludes the areas that we had discussed along the entire length of 7th Street on the frontage, and then a portion of the way down Sierra Way. So those are the parcels that we had discussed previously as potential areas to develop housing. As far as the security goes, there is perimeter fencing with gates, so it will be able to be secured on a nightly basis. It'll need to be opened and closed. And then, of course, working with our police department to provide additional support there as far as securing the site and making sure that we're able to preserve that investment for the community to use for the purpose that it was set aside for by our forefathers. And then the improvements that are going to be implemented and placed out at the property are going to draw a different crowd than they draw now. And as we all are well aware, the more positive activity and recreation by our families and local residents that we have at the site, that's the best deterrent that we have available to us to defer the negative activity that goes on there now.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Councilmember Barr, quick question on this item. Go ahead.
Yes, actually a quick comment in response to one of the questions from my colleague, Henry. Nickel. I believe from last year's application, the way this project or this program goes is we first make the expenses, we make the rehab on our end as a city, and then we seek the reimbursement up to the 8.5 million. And I believe that's what I read last year when we were applying. And Jim can confirm or not, but I remember that.
Actually, there's a couple of different ways that this program can be funded. You can request fees in advance, but typically what happens here is we would enter into the agreements with the contractors and then request the payment through the state park. So we don't have to front the money. That money would come through the state parks.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, I know that was my concern last year. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. City Clerk, call the roll, please, on approval of item number 13.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, item number 14, this is pulled by Councilman Mulvihill. It's a resolution to receive and administer Cal VIP grant awards. Mr. Mulvihill.
Yes, I just wanted to spotlight the success of our VIP program. David Miranda and Victory Outreach and the Young Visionaries. This grant from the State Board of Corrections is a $1.5 million grant over 3 years, and it will allow our violence intervention program really to properly function as a deterrent to violent crime. There's quite a story behind the violence intervention. It's also called Ceasefire across the country. And I just wanted to underline the fact that this will greatly enhance our abilities to lower the violent crime rate. It really goes along with the proactive approach of Chief McBride, reinstituting the vice and human trafficking unit in the police department. If people want to know more about just what violence intervention deals with, there's a couple of good books. One is Bleeding Out by a man named Thomas Abt, last name is A-B-T. And the other one is Don't Shoot, and his name is David Kennedy. They're both pretty good. But again, I just want to put a spotlight on the success of our violence intervention program, and I'll recommend approval.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
By Councilman Sanchez. All right, City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, item number 18 was pulled by Councilman Nickel. This is a resolution regarding permanent supportive housing. Mr. Nickel, go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to thank staff and our city manager for pulling this together. I did receive a number of comments from community members on Monday about their continuing and growing concern about the great challenge of homelessness that we have in our city. I think we had some public comment this evening as well. And there is, whether true or not, better or worse, a perception that increasingly the city has become, in their words, a dumping ground for many of our county's homeless population, and that it's only getting worse. And I think it's very incumbent upon us collectively as a council and as a community to ensure that certainly we need to do our part, and I think we are, to address the challenge of homelessness in our community and in our region. But we need to make it clear to our regional partners surrounding jurisdictions that they need to do their part as well. And that we all need to share in this responsibility to address the challenge of homelessness. But the other concern is, in addition to housing, what exactly might we do to address the mental health challenges that are part and parcel to the homeless crisis that we face. And specifically, when we're looking at some of these large development projects, we talked about community benefits agreements in the context of warehouses. My understanding is much of this funding for developing these housing facilities, and in fact, the ownership of these housing facilities are intended, in fact, to be privately or owned by developers and not by government agencies. And if that's the case, may the city impose some type of a community benefits agreement to mitigate some of the effects of accommodating homeless in our community, specifically benefits that would go toward healthcare or mental health workers or mental health intervention or programs to help us address the challenges of homelessness. Is that something we may consider as a policy that is included in any future potential approvals of any type of homeless housing facilities that may be located in our city in the future? Mr. City Manager?
We can consider anything, absolutely. We'll work with the City Attorney's Office and see how we appropriately craft the language to that effect. And I think also, but I think really more importantly, ultimately, that most of the responsibility for services related to homelessness lie with the county. And part of our intent in drafting this was to put on the record our intention to engage the county more directly and ensure that they are paying an appropriate amount of attention here. I'm confident actually that they will. I've had a couple of conversations with them already, but certainly it would be our intention to. There's no avenue that we won't explore in terms of addressing homelessness and making as many kinds of progress on it as possible. So we'll take all of these things to heart and continue, and we will keep you apprised as to our progress with them as well.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up quickly. There was a recent report that shows that upwards of, in some cases, we've seen upwards of $700,000 per single person unit is being directed through government agencies to these developers. And I think it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we direct at least some of that funding toward mitigating the effects on our community, be it through either some kind of a segregated fund or some other type of program that ensures that we can mitigate the costs to our law enforcement and our local services and ensure that in fact we have not just the promise or the good graces of the county, but we are, in fact have some resources that are directed through these developments to the services that are needed to mitigate the challenges that confront us when we take on these populations.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Nickel. Let's get a motion for approvals. Consent item, folks. We've heard about it. Councilmember Ibarra. Thank you, Councilman Nickel, on a support. Is there a second? Second by Jim. I just read your mouth. I'm sorry. Is that a second?
Yeah, that's a second.
All right, cool. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Ibarra, go ahead.
Yes, I actually want to thank our city manager for putting this. We do need to collaborate with other agencies. There seems to be like a disconnect. But a couple, maybe like 2 months ago, we had a workshop regarding the CARES money that the city received. And I had made a comment, and I'm hoping we can apply it here in our city, that the outreach workers that are getting funded through some of the CARE money, that they work with our quality of life team, that they go out there when they go into the homeless encampments and make contact with our homeless population. I know that's something that I mentioned to city staff back in August, and I hope we start formulating like a task force in our city. And I wanted to put that onto our city manager to hopefully we can work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ibarra. I think I really would love to, well, I'm going to start calling each one of you personally on a one-off, on an opportunity within provisions of the Brown Act to share the future of homelessness and how the city council really needs to start leading on this opportunity. I have been studying and assessing it during my hibernation here of the whole COVID and finding out what the intricacies of the homeless solutions might be. And so I'll share those with you individually within those provisions, and we can have a conversation. But I think the city council really needs to move forward on a policy decision as to how we're going to address homelessness. Recently, I was provided a spotlight opportunity at our Inland Council Homeless Agency with Supervisor Gonzalez, highlighting the importance of the city of San Bernardino moving proactively on addressing homelessness with a one-stop shop emphasis. I'd like to explore those opportunities individually on a policy decision. It's ultimately your call, City Council, on how you want to proceed. But the opportunities of a wellness center really might be the one-stop opportunity for us. So tonight we're talking about this issue. It's item number 18. We have a motion and a second. And Ms. City Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mulvihill.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Hey, thank you very much. That concludes our consent calendar. Are there any items to be referred to committees?
I have
Councilman
one.
Nickel, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to go to a committee or we get an update, but I have been asked on what's the status of the advisory, a general plan advisory council. I know that was discussed some time ago, that there was going to be an advisory group established as part of the general plan update, and that the council, or I assume council members, would appoint a number of individuals to serve on that advisory group. Do we know when we're going to establish that? Is that something that we need to establish as a council, or what's the process?
Rob, why don't we do this? Is it possible to update the whole city council via maybe your bi-weekly city manager updates in writing for us? And we can, that's a very good point, Councilman Nickel, on the formation of general plan advisory committee and the composition, and possibly even up or down on the policy appointment as to the representation. So if you don't mind, Councilman Nickel, great point. We can address it through the manager's update. That's okay.
That's fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. Any other comments? Councilman Mulvihill, sir, go
I
ahead.
have a comment on the conference attended. If you're
Okay.
done with the,
Give me just a second. I'll get to you in just a second. I've been alerted by Ms. Rocha, our city clerk, that we had some, for whatever reasons, we have a public comment. We'll go ahead and hear that one last public comment issue. Ms. Rocha, are you ready and prepared to play that recorded
Yes.
message? If you would, please. Thank you.
Yes, this is Harry Hatch, Ward 7, an agenda item not on the agenda. I would like to point out to the City Council Section 308 and 309 of the City Charter and bring into reflection several terms. In Section 309, they use the term collaboration, meaning the collaboration between the City Council and the mayor. As I have seen in the past, our mayor has more of a dictatorial fashion with the City Council. Therefore, he doesn't collaborate with the City Council to get things done. In Section 308, it says that the City Council shall, that means will, that means has to, be the judge of an individual's election, certification, and whether or not they can maintain or forfeit their office. Therefore, City Council has the right, since the mayor is not cooperating, to hold him in censure and demand of him that he abide by the city charter. I thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Councilman Mulvihill, were you done with your comments, sir, on the attendees or the conferences?
Hadn't started yet.
Are there any other items to be referred? If not, we'll move on. Mr. Mulvihill, go ahead on your report.
Well, I was so pleased to be able to represent the City Council at the recent League of California Cities conference that was held virtually, and I think the main topic of discussion was the COVID and the impact of the COVID on cities. It really indicated something about the ability to go virtual, that prior to the COVID, about 10% of workers were virtual. They were able to stay home. When COVID came about, that moved up to about 80% of the employed population was working from home. Now it's dropped back to about 25%, and there was some question as far as how much further it would go. It probably will never go back to 10% because obviously Zoom meetings like we're having today, you think about business meetings can be held a lot more easily, and obviously it's affecting the airlines. But it raises some issues. Some jobs can't go virtual. You know, frontline workers like hospital workers or housekeeping have to be on site. And so it gets into some questions of equity issues. You know, often frontline workers tend to be lower income and must travel. And so something about the equity issue with regard to that. Another issue, the importance of access to broadband internet. Who doesn't have access to broadband internet? And again, it probably is people with low income. And it's almost as though broadband should be treated like a utility now. You need to have it in order to seek employment, among other things. So there were those issues, and also with regard to COVID, obviously the loss of city incomes and the need to downsize. We had a conference with two labor attorneys, and they discussed the implications of downsizing with regard to the loss of budgets, of the implications of layoffs versus furloughs, and the implications of bumping of separation pays, among others. Lastly, there was some discussion of complete streets. We had a discussion about a month ago in which complete streets were brought up from Caltrans about sidewalks. Well, Grover Beach, which is right next to Pismo Beach, had a street that was about 100 feet wide, Newport Boulevard. And the idea is that there were lots of accidents. People were speeding. I mean, you probably land a plane on it. I think it was wider than Valencia Avenue. And so what they've done, they've completely applied complete streets, and I'm trying to think there's another term there about limiting the traffic speeds of bump outs and applying parking lanes and bicycle lanes, among other things. And it seems to me there's some I have to admit that there was 3 days of meetings via virtual, and one of the comments from the public this evening criticized me for leaving early. I have to admit that I was at the meeting from about 8:30, looking at my television screen here, or my computer screen, and by that time of the evening I had a blazing headache, and I had to go home. So it wasn't as though I was just, as he said, sleeping. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, council members, we appreciate your active participation in tonight's meeting. This meeting is now adjourned, and we appreciate your involvement. Thank you to our public and our staff once again for a successful city council meeting. Thank you all. Have a good night.